Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Supercast. With me today is Luke. How are you doing today, Luke?
I am doing fairly well. How are you, Mr. Ginyu?
Well, I am doing quite well as well.
That is quite well as well. Well.
Yes. You know, let's put in a few more wells.
Well.
About it. So, there's something interesting that I saw at one of the conventions that I was at. And I was wondering if you knew about this or had any intel on it.
And what would this be?
This was a fighting game, but it wasn't just any ordinary fighting game. It had My Little Ponies in it.
Oh my god! I must get it.
I'm trying to remember what system it was for. I believe the convention was AAC.
I wasn't at AAC, unfortunately.
Yep, well, people were definitely playing it. I did not spend too much time in their game room, but yes, it was there, and it seemed kind of beta-ish, so I'm wondering if now it's more complete.
Yeah, did you happen to see the name?
Sadly, no. By the time I saw it, people were already into a versus mode, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I know."
I know there's one on the internet called Fighting is Magic.
Okay. I don't know because this was being played on a system, so I'm not sure if this one was the one from the internet, unless they made a port for the system.
I'll have to ask around.
But, you know, pretty standard. You know, there was attacks, and the ponies would jump up and down, and various movements. Your standard 2D fighting thing.
Oh, I'll definitely have to give it a look-see.
So, let's talk about a certain hobby that I have been on hiatus for a while. LPs.
LPs. I actually just got off like a 3-month hiatus.
Really?
Yep.
So, what's your next LPing project?
I don't know. I just finished one, and I don't know what the next one is.
I see. So, well, let me ask you this then. What is the deciding factors that makes you pick one game versus the other for an LP?
That's something I've always wondered. Basically, I try to pick a game that I know pretty well, and that I think could keep my interest for the whole time around. Like, you don't want to start a game that you really like and then get to a point where you're like, I don't want to do this anymore, because you'll just look bad.
Yeah, definitely.
Trust me, I've done that before.
Yeah, there are some games that I have started myself, and I never got a chance to continue, because either I lost a save or something else came up.
Yeah. But, just a fair warning to everybody. No matter what game you love, I can assure you there is gonna be one part of that game that you will just despise to go through. Trust me, it's in every single game, and that is gonna be the hardest part of the LP to play through.
You know, for me, there was one game in particular, and this one was for the Sega CD. It was Rise of the Dragon. And there's this one part in the game where you have a limited amount of time, and you have to connect these wires to wiretap a phone line. But here's the problem. You connect it wrong, you get electrocuted. You take too long, you get killed by rats.
Wow.
Yeah. Other than that, it's a game that I enjoy. That's the one part that always ticks me off.
Well, I mean, I was actually planning on doing Tales of Symphonia, which is my favorite game of all time. But near the very beginning, you're in this prison area. It's not a long area, it's not a hard area, it's not a confusing area. But even when I'm playing on my own, if I get to that point, I usually stop and start a new game because I just cannot stand that place. It's just really boring and like impossible to come up with commentary for if that part of the game is boring.
And it's like another thing that I've noticed about LPs is that certain games, they just don't work unless for the boring parts where you're just doing miscellaneous tasks, you have a few options that I can think of right off the bat. Just, edit them out and say that, okay, this is going to be the boring part. I'm just going to walk around, do blah, 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 yakety schmackety. I'm just going to edit this out for you guys. You're not missing anything. It's just walking around. Or you get a group of people to just, talk about random topics while the walking around is going on. And those random topics will get your fan base to still enjoy the boring part.
Yeah, although, something I must say that a lot of people who do not do LPs seem to take for granted. Doing LPs looks easy, but in reality, it's not. I mean, if you make a 40-minute video, you are sitting there for 40 minutes talking non-stop about nothing. That's actually really hard to do. And I don't think enough people realize that when an LP becomes boring. They don't realize how difficult it is to really come up with commentary on the spot about nothing.
Yes. And you know what? Like, I'm starting to think back to when I first started LP. It was really hard for me to make sure that my gameplay was still up to par while I was trying to commentate as well. It's a difficult process.
Yeah, that's called the LP curse. You're perfect at the game, but as soon as you hit the record button, you're gonna suck.
Now, luckily for me, I was able to overcome that. It took a while, but I got the hang of it.
I did too. It's just a matter of being able to concentrate on multiple different things at a time. That's another thing.
Yes.
You have to concentrate on the game. You have to concentrate on what you're doing in that episode. You have to concentrate on the time without looking at the time. You have to be able to I just said that twice. You have to be able to set in your mind what 15, 20 minutes, a half hour feels like without looking at it.
Yeah.
And you have to think of your commentary all at the same time.
Just one of those things. Not everyone can do it.
Yeah.
If you're the kind of person that is not good at multitasking, then LP is going to be a real struggle for someone like that.
Yeah. Or if you don't talk very often, it's going to be an almost impossible task.
That's why I've noticed that there are... Well, it's interesting with the way LPing works. Sometimes people, they take it in different ways. Like, you do your commentary through text. Or, I've seen this a few times. You entice the fans to put their random quotations as you're playing.
Yeah.
Like, there are different ways to do it, Everyone has their own way. I'm not saying that this is the absolute perfect way to do it. Everyone's gonna have their flow. And once you understand what you're good at and what you're not good at, then the ball is in your court.
Yeah. Yeah, again, it's just thinking about, first of all, you have to know your limits. Like, how long can I go while keeping it fresh, not repeating myself a million times, and still keeping it interesting?
Yep.
And still playing well.
And it's like, for me, like, the way I've been going, I'm more of a casual player. I'll look up a Flash game, and if I like it, I'll share it with everyone else that's an LP. Like, I really like point and games. Like, they're my favorite group of games. It's what I remember from the old school days, you know, and it gives me a lot of joy when I see this format still being alive in this day and age, when so many games are like into the latest graphics or the latest rendering to tell their stories.
Yeah.
So what about you? What type of video game format do you enjoy the most?
Define format.
Well, as in, are you a adventure type of player, or do you mainly like RPGs?
What would you consider Zelda?
Zelda? For me, Zelda is a combination of two things. Combination of an RPG and an adventure game.
Well, then like Zelda, Tales franchise, Final Fantasy. I like long, epic games with a lot of side quests. Basically games that'll keep you busy forever.
So I don't know if you've done this game before, but I would recommend you LPing Phantasy Star 4.
The Last Hope?
Yep.
International Edition? I tried. I really tried, but
It's
that's one of those games that it's like there's so much to do that it's overwhelming.
yes it is. You need to take it strategically and hammer it down.
Yeah, and I started off and I recorded the first 3 episodes, watched them through again, and just thought, wow, this really sucks.
It's a hard task. Not everyone can pull that game off, because you gotta think, it's very lengthy.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing that I was thinking about with, like, Tales of Symphonia. I want 100% it. First time I ever did that, it took me just under 600 hours. And that would be that'd be like almost 1,000 episodes for an LP.
Yeah, that's a lot of episodes. That's very to me.
So I want to play through the game a couple more times before I do that.
Alright, so we are almost out of time, but as you know, I always ask everyone this. A website that you would like to give props to before we get going.
A website that I'd like to give props to before we get going. Huh. That's a good one. I don't know.
Wow, I think you're the first one to actually flake on that question. Yeah.
Well, actually, there are 2 channels.
Okay. What are they?
The first one, if I can get the name correct. Sorry if this is taking too long. Is Michelle Krieber, the official Michelle Krieber YouTube channel. Is youtube.com/user/Michelle Krieber. And Claire Coconuts, which is the official Claire Colette, Claire Kobe YouTube channel, and that is youtube.com/user/Claire Coconuts.
Alright.
And they are 2 of the Cutie Mark Crusaders from My Little Pony.
Excellent. And on that note, I think it is time to bring an end to this edition of El Supercast. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.
Have a good whatever.